Hey, this is Chad from Bearing Witness College of Mission Essay Coaching. Welcome to our series on writing mission-worthy personal statements. For the past 8 years, I've had the pleasure of teaching writing and performance workshops over 70 college universities, where one of the first things I learned was that somewhere around 7th grade, schools tend to shift from the emphasis on descriptive and narrative writing to more expository and persuasive writing. Since the majority of missions essays favor narrative and descriptive writing, when it comes to writing your personal statement, even advanced high school writers can find this process difficult. For more detailed analysis of the materials covered in these videos, including tips, tools, exercises, writing prompts, and examples, check out bearingwitnessadmissions.com, where you'll also find information on our one-on-one services, which range from essay review to comprehensive start-to-finish coaching, all of which are deeply discounted throughout the month of September. I'll also be updating this channel weekly, so make sure to like, subscribe, and share. If you haven't checked out our introductory video, make sure to do that to find out more about who we are and what we offer. Let's get writing. So today I want to talk about structure. Now, there's nothing fascinating or overly colorful about structure. However, it is the one thing that when done poorly can tank an otherwise pretty good essay. So it's important that we focus on that. So just bear with me, okay? So structure refers to how information within a written text is presented and organized. Without structure, even highly compelling stories can present as scattered and long-winded. Think about your essay as the admissions officer on a road trip. Structure is your essay's GPS. Now, from time to time, I hear people say, well, Chad, I've been writing all my life. I'm AP English. I know structure. Okay. So God be the glory. Here's what I found, though. There are some inherent issues with structure when it comes to writing admission essays. And they're as followed. For most of you, for a lot of you at least, it's been a long time since you've done this type of writing. Somewhere around 7th grade, schools tend to shift from the more narrative, descriptive writing to expository and persuasive writing. So it might have been a lot of years, and so, it takes practice. The other thing which people forget, for a lot of you, probably for most of you actually, this is the first time you are writing for somebody who knows nothing about you. Before you've written for your teachers and friends and family, when we read something by somebody we know, our mind fills in things. It makes conclusions, it jumps, it fills in a lot of stuff, and so you don't have that opportunity here. Remember, this is your only shot, basically. This is the one thing that you control out of the whole thing. This is your control, so you want to do the best you can. I like to say, if your essay's being read, they already like you. Your job of the essay is to show them what you will bring to the relationship, what makes you more dateable than thousands of other suitors. And when they're in your essay, you want them to stay in their essay. Now, if they get lost, they come out, and they'll go back in. But every time they come out of the creative and go to an analytical. So it's harder to go back in. So your job is to keep them in and keep them focused. And this is where you can set yourself apart, because a lot of people won't be doing this. A lot of people think they know structure, they got this, I'm just going to tell a story. So here, we're going to focus on some elements to have strong structure, okay? Here we go. First element is the narrative effect. So narrative effect is your main point, your message, the takeaway. Now, this may not show up at the very beginning. Sometimes it switches. That's okay. Just make sure to keep asking yourself, why am I telling this story? And why would somebody be interested in hearing this story? When you get the answer you like, that's your narrative effect. If you don't, no worries. There's lots of other stories to tell. Okay? The next thing you need is what's called a dominant impression. And this is the mood. This is the takeaway. This is what you want them to take away. This is the mood you want. And when we find this, now this actually you want to have this before you start writing, and this needs to continue throughout the whole essay. Everything needs to support this. And we don't say, hey, I'm going to be happy or sad. No, we talk about mood in very descriptive imagery. So this is something that a lot of people don't have. It's something that we don't use a lot in writing, in academic writing, and so it's important that you have the dominant impression. The next thing we do, we're talking about structure, and we're talking about, organization and coherence. I've done several other videos, including one called The Hook, Don't Forget the Middle, and the Leading Moment, Central Moment, and Turning Point. So right now, basically all you need to know is that your essay needs an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. The introduction is where you are going to introduce your narrative effect, dominant impression, self, other main characters, and setting. The body is all about supporting your narrative effect and presenting and organizing material in a logical order. This is where you have your rise, your climax, and your transition. So once again, to find out more about this, look for the video called Leading Moment, Central Moment, Turning Points. The conclusion is where you help the admissions officer understand why this essay, the subject matter, is important to you and why it should be important to them. So one of the things about this essay that differs than like just telling a story to friends on the weekend is this is a transformational story. There needs to be growth and development. There needs to be lessons learned. I was here, this happened, I'm now here, because I'm now here, I can go there. So inherent in all essays, admissions essays on some level is, who are you? How will you benefit from being admitted to the university? How will you benefit from being admitted to the university? Sorry about that. And how will let's try this again. Who are you? How will you benefit by being admitted to the university? And how will the university benefit by admitting you? People often forget the third one. Relationships, both ways. Okay, so all stories have a time structure. Okay? The two most common are chronological and psychological. Chronological, I'm just going to keep going. Sorry, folks, just catch what you can. Chronological reveals events in the order that they occur. Psychological, those are relationships to the orders. Now, while chronological is the most common, it can also be predictable sometimes and lacks excitement. It also doesn't lend well to stories where there's huge gaps. So, for instance, if you're telling a story about your 16-year-old self that has a direct connection to your 5-year-old self, but nothing in between, chronological is not sometimes the best way to tell that story. However, there are a couple techniques that you can use that will help that. The first is called flashback, and this is where you recall events from a past time to provide insight into the current event. Now, flashback is great for those gaps I mentioned. It's also great for stories that involve you before you can remember you. So a lot of my stories have to do with my adoption. My parents are white. I'm adopted at 13 months. I don't remember it. So often I use flashback to remember, to tell the story of what my parents say. Basically, I say, my mother tells of a time. Okay. Another thing that flashback works well is if you have memorabilia. So let's say your dad gave you a watch, basically, that's a family heirloom. Okay. Thing with flashback, if you're going to use that, go to the website and check out backstory. The problem with flashback is people stay back there. Go, come back. Go, come back. The job is not to go and tell a different story, okay? Don't get people messed up, and don't get them confused in the story you're telling, okay? Next thing is called flash forward. We're almost done here, folks. Flash forward is where you begin your story at, say, the climax or the rise, and then go back and then come through and tell it past that. Happens often in movies. They'll start with a big train crash, say, and then they'll say 2 weeks prior, a year prior. One of the benefits of this is when people know where we're going, they see things differently. So I often use this in my work. I use this in my play that I do with eating disorders. I started the play at 16 when basically I got caught by the high school janitor and was sent off to rehab. And then I go all the way back and talk about my history of food. So you already know I'm going to rehab. So you're going to look at my 5th grade and my 1st grade issues of food a little differently. Okay, language and words are important. So personal narrative, we use words to create images in the reader's mind, to engage them. To achieve these, we use descriptive words and sensory images when describing our characters and setting. Remember, your goal is to place the admissions officer in the time and place that it happens. You have to show them that. So we try to replace emotional qualifiers such as angry, overjoyed, fearless, tender with brief action-reaction event descriptions. You'll see a lot of this in both our characterization and our setting videos. Not all words have to make the reader's hair stand up. However, all words need to contribute and not detract. So here's a way to find out. Words like, really, just, I guess, they rarely add anything to the story. So if you want to find out what role a word plays, read the sentence out loud without the word. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is actually what I don't want to talk about. It's point of view. And I'm not talking a lot about point of view, basically, because you probably have studied that in your school, and your English teacher can help you with that. But most stories are told in first person. That's the I statement. What you need to know about point of view, though, is whatever point of view you start with, you need to continue. And that goes with timing. It's your job to shepherd them along, the reader along. And you can't do that if you're mixing timing and mixing point of views. So that's the basic on structure. I know a lot of information. However, it's important. If you want to find out more about this information, as well as tips, tools, strategies, all that other kind of stuff, which you will need to put this in practice, head on over to bearingwitnessadmissions.com, where you'll find out all the information, plus more stuff about our one-on-one services, which range from essay review to comprehensive start-to-finish coaching. All right? I'll see you next time.